Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mission Impact with myself, Tracy B. Allen, impact strategist for social enterprises, owner of TBA Consulting with over 20 years of experience in the industry.
I am Daphne Pettis, nonprofit consultant, philanthropic advisor, and social strategist at On Good Ground Strategic Solutions.
I'm Tyboon Enterprises. I'm a nonprofit success strategist and program development strategist. And if this is your second video, we got a whole bunch of years of experience, right?
Yes.
Plus years of experience working in our various areas of expertise.
Exactly.
Mission impact.
Right. So our goal with this series that comes out every single Wednesday at 1 p.m. is for you to be able to make sure that you are maximizing the impact for the communities that you're trying to serve. So we're giving you strategies, oh my God, I can't speak today. Tips, tricks, and strategies. Yeah, tips, I still can't say it. Tips, tricks, strategies. Oh my gosh. To help to make sure that happens to you. So today's talk is about what happens on the inside, the annual internal review. So if you joined us for the last one, and if you haven't seen it, you need to go back and go look at it because it was very informative. The last one we talked about the annual reporting of your all of the activities that you've done all year. So this one is about doing an internal review. So what is an internal review? An internal review is looking at all of the different components, all the different aspects of how that organization or that business was run throughout the year. So we're talking about 2020. Yes, we're in 2021, but we're talking about wrapping up 2020 because this is a series called Out with the Old and In with the New. You cannot start 2021 if you haven't properly wrapped up 2020. So this series helps you to wrap up 2020 the right way so that we can start with 2021. And the last part of the series shows how everything that we're talking about in these first three videos is going to lead to starting 2021 the right way. So with the annual internal review, we're looking at all of the internal aspects of the runnings of your company or your organization. Everything from staff, boards, advisory boards, programs, services, clients, accounting, everything, all of the software that you use, whether you're in the right space, right? Whether it's physical space or virtual space, whatever it is, you need to really take a deep dive and figure out what's working and what's not working, what needs to go and what can stay, right? And I think the best story that talks about internal review is one that Ty told me. The craziest story I've ever heard. Literally, I thought I was bad, but this girl, poor child, right? She talked about having her son, who's 12 years old, right? I want to call him 30, 12 years old. And you paid for your gym membership for what, 9 years?
For nine whole years, right? The funny, because we were talking about this the other day, right? Having these things where you're looking into just the inside, because a lot of times we waste a lot of things, and a lot of times we get going with stuff and it's just not useful for us at all. We get going with people and they're no use for us at all. We got staff that ain't doing their job or doing the job the wrong way, and we just need to stop and let them go or fix it, right? What is it, whatever we're trying to do? So I was telling Daphne, crazy. My son, he'll be 12 in January, and the month after he was born, I joined the gym. Right? I joined the gym. I went in, joined the gym, paid the gym membership. That was the first and last time I stepped foot in that gym. That was almost 12 years ago. I paid for this gym membership for 9 whole years. Y'all, my card expired twice or more in this gym membership. I updated the card information, kept it going, knowing I wasn't going. wasn't going to. One day, my husband was like, "We still paying for the gym?" I'm like, "Yeah." One day, 9 years later, right? We still paying for the gym membership. Yeah, me of us been to the gym. The children done went to. He ain't a baby no more. He over here in middle school. I ain't lost no weight. We ain't did nothing. I ate a whole pecan pie and I don't care. And just wasting resources, right?
Yeah.
So with that internal audit, sitting down and just evaluating what are you doing, and not just what you're spending, but whose time are you wasting?
Yes.
Who's wasting your time? That kind of thing. You can have, staff, and if you hired them for a certain job and things are not going, staff evaluation that you should be doing anyway, throughout the year, you should have a designated time where you evaluate your staff, even your volunteers, to make sure that things are going like they're supposed to be going. But you want to take some time to say, okay, what's up? What's going on? Do we even need this? Exactly. A lot of times we find ourselves overspending. A lot of our businesses and organizations go under because we're putting our time, our energy, and our money in places that serve us no purpose, right? Exactly. And it's like, if it ain't moving us forward, we don't need it. If it ain't moving us forward, you don't need to be here. We need to do something. We need to get rid of it, right? The gym membership, it took me 9 years, so I ain't fussing at nobody. It took me 9 whole years. The scale was going up, not down. I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't planning to go. So I finally made up my mind. It just sounded good at the time. It was something that made me happy at the time to go in there and said I had a gym membership. I wasn't gonna use that gym membership because I was lazy and I wasn't gonna go anyway. That was but every time when my card expired, they sent a little email, update your card. I'm like, okay, cool, because I'm gonna do it next time. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna do it. So you want to, the same thing with the business.
Be real with yourself. Be real with what's going on in the organization. Yeah.
Even with your business, and we were talking about this, y'all, talking about some of the systems and things that we get. You want to, when you get into these things, you want to know that you're going to work it, because sometimes we do stuff and we don't want to do the work that it takes. Even, with us, we're all consultants and people pay us to work with us, right? How many times have we gotten clients who paid us to work with us, but didn't want to do any work? So you still gonna pay me, because you still gonna get my invoice and your automatic pay, however it's got to work. It's still gonna happen, right? You're still paying me, but if you're not doing the work, you're wasting the money.
Yeah, absolutely. And that happens a lot. Sometimes we live in a fantasy in our heads, not only in our personal lives, but in our businesses. So nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, social enterprises, you really need to sit down and do an annual audit. Like, really, anyways, you should be doing this every month. But if you haven't done it every month, now is the time to really sit down before you really dive fully. Sometimes you have things coming out of your account every single month that you don't even realize is coming out if your accounts are never in the negative. When your accounts are in the negative, everything that's coming out.
I think that was I think that's when my husband was like, hey, gym membership. Look.
Right. Exactly. So sitting down and figuring that out. So, a lot of us have virtual assistants, and we hire virtual assistants for a reason. If that person is not doing what needs to be done to take the things off your table, this is just an example, to take the things off your table that you needed to be removed so you could do other activities, then you may need to look either at that person's scope of work, what maybe you're doing wrong, maybe you're not giving them the right directives, cut hours back, whatever it takes. So just simple things like that, because I know a lot of people are in a virtual space right now. So not because you're in a virtual space and not in a physical space means that you don't do this audit, and if you're in a physical space and you can get rid of your lease, if everything has been working well through 2020, in a virtual setting, now you need to stop and think, do I really need to go back to doing this in a physical space, paying $2,500 a month for rent, then heating, then light, then cable, then insurance, and all of that stuff for the physical space, when I have been doing well in a virtual setting? You need to stop and think about your board. You can't do anything about the board, but you can evaluate the board, and that's a whole different topic. But there's an evaluation that the board needs to undertake for themselves to see if they're being as effective as possible as an entity, as a board entity, helping to run this organization. You look at your staff. Is your staff working up to par? Are there things that are falling off the table because maybe they're overworked, or maybe they have too much free time, and you can add things that are still within their scope of work that they can do to make sure that you're maximizing your impact internally, so that can trickle to the external aspects. Then you need to look at the programs and services that you're offering. Do you need to offer all of these programs and services? Right? Do you have the capacity to continue to handle the scope of services that you're offering? Partnerships, you need to look at partnerships. What partnerships do you have? Are these partnerships working, or are they just monikers on your website just to say that you have a partnership, but nothing is truly happening? They're not supporting you in any way, or maybe you're not supporting them in any way, or the support that you have just isn't working out for you. You really need to look at all of those aspects. And then, of course, your clients, right? You need to look at your clients. Who are your clients? Are you serving the right population, the right demographic? Go back to that mission. If you're a for-profit business, you should have a mission. If you're a nonprofit business, you should have a mission. If you're a social enterprise, you should have a mission. And if you ever listened to me before, I'm always talking about staying mission-centered, making sure that everything that you do in your organization or company is related back to your mission. So you need to look at that too. Have the things that you've done throughout the year, did they lead back to your mission? And Ty talked about in the last one, pivoting. A lot of us have had to pivot in 2020. How far away from your mission did that pivot take you, right? Because if it took you way outside of your mission, what your initial mission is, that's something you need to look at too, especially if you are using grant dollars to achieve this particular mission. Were you in compliance? Did you go so far away from what that grant was given to you for that now you're in trouble? Or if you were still in compliance and you went down a different aspect of your mission, is this aspect the road that you want to continue on, or do you want to repivot back to what your original scope of services were? So, Daphne?
Yeah, and the one thing that I want to say is that I think that a lot of times when we do internal audits, especially for nonprofits and smaller nonprofits, and those people who began with that passion and you just started, the one thing that we fear is letting go. We don't want to start the one thing they got to start it. But truthfully, if you're serving the homeless, but your nonprofit organization is not your mission is not in that direction, why are you still doing it? If something is not working in your nonprofit, why are you still doing it? And a lot of times what happens is people feel like they have become known for something. Mm-hmm. And even though it's not working, they don't let it go. But in all honesty, that's the one thing that keeps you stagnant. You keep doing that one thing, and the people have moved, systems have moved, things have changed, and you're not changing with it. So don't fear letting go what's not working.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, just to even give an anecdotal story to both things that you said, for about 4 years now, Ty, I've been telling you I wanted to pivot just into working with social enterprises, right? I kept telling her, I was like, I don't want to really work with nonprofits. Not that I don't work with nonprofits anymore. Let's not get that confused, because a lot of my clients are still nonprofits, but I really wanted to focus, to niche in on social enterprises for a lot of reasons. One of the main reasons is that a lot of people that I came across were not suited for starting nonprofits, right? They were not. It just wasn't the right entity for them to create the impact that they wanted to create. And I was afraid to change because everybody knew me as the nonprofit strategist, right? And so I had created this whole brand around being a nonprofit strategist. I was like, oh, so how am I going to pivot, right? And then earlier this year, even though I was working it, I still was working on the label of being a nonprofit strategist. I was still working with social enterprise. I've been working with social enterprises now for years. I think since I started my business 20 years ago, I just didn't call it that. I just said it was for-profit businesses, and okay, yeah, we're doing a social cause over here. We didn't put a name on it because it wasn't as popular. About 15 years ago is when I really discovered what social enterprises were. And I was like, oh, this is it right here. This is better than being a nonprofit, right? For some people, not for everybody, right? But for a lot of people, it's better than being a nonprofit because they want that control. They want that, be able to get rich someday or have, whatever type of lifestyle they want to have. And it's not that it's impossible in a nonprofit, it's just a little harder, right? But anyway, from the time I let go of the name nonprofit, right, and put that stamp of approval of social enterprise specialist, my business is like skyrocketed. It just like went, right? It just went. So those are things, that's part of an internal audit. Because how I came to that conclusion is because I kept looking at where my business was going, the type of clientele I was getting, the type of clientele I didn't want to work with anymore, what people were asking me for, right? So if I'm working, if 75% of my business is coming from for-profit entities, then that's the space I need to be in, not the nonprofit. 25% of business cannot support me. Right? It cannot put food on the table and keep the lights on. So I'm just saying that. And another thing that happened is I just moved. And 9 years ago, I moved back to Connecticut, right? And when I moved with all of the things that I had, all of my worldly possessions. My daughter is 16 years old. After I had my daughter 16 years ago, I was a size 12. And I was a teacher, and I had bought a whole new wardrobe like I did. Let's not regress to that time, but I used to spend at least about $10,000, $12,000 a year on clothing. I had a habit, okay? I'll shop
my gym membership. Okay, go ahead.
So I was spending a lot of money on clothing. But right after I had my daughter, I became even more ill. And I got on some medication. I started putting on weight. So the clothing that I bought, all those clothing from Nordstrom's and Saks Fifth Avenue, and so it's expensive clothing, right? I'm like spending $200 for a shirt, or $500 for a pantsuit or something to that effect. I was so attached to these clothing because I'm just like, I got 4 or 5 containers of about $20,000 of brand new clothes that I have never worn. And I did not want to let go of it, right? I did not. I was just like, I'm going to become a size 12 again. I'm going to become 16 years later, I still not a size 12, right? I've never gotten back there. I've come close, but I've never gotten back there. So the point is I haven't been able to wear those clothing. And in moving, this move, I said, that is the one thing I need to let go of. I have got to let go of why am I holding up? My style has changed, right? And it's the same thing in your business. Sometimes things change. You start off doing one thing and then you pivot as you see things happening in your business, what people are asking you for, what the marketplace is looking like. You have to change. And that's all part of an internal audit. It may sound like I went off script, but it's still part of an internal audit, because not only do you have to do an internal audit for your business, because some of us are our business, right? And so deeply invested in our business, we have to do internal audits of ourselves, because what happens in our lives trickles over into our business, whether we like it or not. There's no big line of delineation that says, okay, this is business and this is your personal life. If things are not going good over here, as much as most of us may want to say it doesn't affect our business, it is going to affect your business. So you really need to do an internal audit, not only of yourself, but of your business practices as well.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. You know, on the personal level, if you're not in the right headspace personally, you're not going to be. You can forget about running a successful business, because it's not going to work. It's going to be all out of line. But I remember when I worked in the aid service organization, and back then, you know, prevention was initially the thing. Everybody wanted, you wanted to talk about prevention, you want to talk about modes of transmission, whatever. Then Magic Johnson came around and got this pill that, and it got like super funding for this pill, and they didn't have to take like these big cocktails anymore. Everything got easier. People were less concerned about prevention and more concerned about treatment, right? And since that became the thing, and my job at the aid service organization that I was hired for was education and prevention, right? So that's what I was doing. And then we had to start noticing, because of things like internal audits, the funding looks funny, right? Treatment, prevention dollars are decreasing, treatment dollars are increasing. So how do we stay in the mission of my program, which was education, and prevention, but still but be able to get some of this treatment money, because the education monies don't look good, and I got 7 people on my staff that I got to help, make sure they take care of their families, right? So how do we pivot but still stay in the mission of our program? We can still educate about treatment, right? We can still educate about adherence to your drug regimen. So it was an easy switch, but we just had to pay attention to where the conversation was going, right? And do some more research and make sure that we were there with that. Now they have prep, right? For people who just all kinds of stuff that's changing in the field. One thing that I always remind people is, when you're getting into these organizations, you're getting into these businesses, you have to be the subject matter expert in your thing, right? You have to always continue your education. And oh my gosh, people in nonprofits, especially when you're doing everything and you're wearing 95 hats already, we kind of get stuck where we're like, okay, I'm running a nonprofit business, I'm the executive director. But if you're also the program director, the case manager, all this stuff, you got to stay in the know. You got to know what's going on in your area. If I came to your city and I needed to know about epilepsy and your organization services, you need to know everything there is to know about it. You need to know, and you need to invest in the education that it's going to take to know. You got to know when the trends change. But like when I was working in HIV, if I didn't pay attention to the fact that, hey, everything's switching to treatment, we were gonna have to fire 7 people. Because we ain't got no money. Right. We don't have enough money to support their salaries. So how do we change that? We had to stay, on top of it. Where the dollars going? What are they looking at now? What are they focusing on? So yeah, let's go. Not that we're changing mission, because our mission was to educate.
Right, exactly. So you're still educating, just about a different topic within the same program. And that's great, because we're talking about looking at the marketplace, looking at what's trending in the marketplace to make sure that you're serving what people need at that time. So yeah. And then again, it goes back to your needs assessment statement, which we talked about briefly on Clubhouse, but we'll talk about that more in detail in another one. But it goes back to your needs statement, right? That may change too. That's a fluid document. A lot of these documents in your nonprofit organizations are fluid documents. When I say fluid documents, that means that they're constantly changing as things in your organization changes. So a lot of people think that they write a business plan and that's it. You write a strategic plan, you got a strategic plan. You write your needs assessment statement and that's it. Absolutely not. These things are fluid. So if you pivoted, your needs assessment statement needs to pivot. Your business plan needs to pivot. Your strategic plan needs to pivot. Who you're getting funding from needs to pivot. All of these things go back into doing that internal audit. Daphne, last thoughts.
My last thoughts. It's always for the founder. That person who, as you say, is doing everything. That internal audit also shows you where you as a founder need to adjust, where it is that you need to possibly take a look at yourself, your position, and what it is that you are doing that may negatively impact your organization or positively impact your organization. And if you are at the point to where you need to shift as a founder, is it time for me to remove myself as the ED and focus more on something else? Is it that it's time to hand over some of the responsibilities and hire more staff? You can't keep operating in the space as the Lone Ranger, because as you do, your organization suffers. And as a nonprofit founder, your overall mission is to do whatever is needed for your organization to be successful. That is your goal as the founder of a nonprofit organization. So as we're saying, that internal audit is, is self as well as organizationally, and in every area, what is best for the organization, not what's best for self.
Absolutely. Ty, last thoughts?
I totally agree with you, Daphne. Sometimes people, they just kind of get there and they're so comfortable, and it's like I can't change. I can't, or either wanting to just be in control of it all and finding it very hard to delegate because of that. It's like, oh, I have to be the one who's doing this, burning yourself all the way out, not making any progress in the organization. And like you said, the founder's the visionary. Mm-hmm. The primary job of the founder is to found it. That's it. We founded this, and then your goal should be to have this to grow into something that's well beyond you. That's the goal. Yeah. Because if you're the founder and your goal is just to keep it between you and your computer desktop, then you're not really doing an organization, right? An organization is called an organization for a reason, because it's supposed to be operated by multiple people. That's why it's called an organization. If you're wanting to do it by yourself, then you might want to look into a different type of business structure.
Yes.
Altogether. I wanted to add a little bit about program and internal evaluation for those. Sometimes we'll start programs and we know they're not working. Yeah. And we'll go for years doing the same thing for years. Having this dang on mentoring program for years, having this domestic violence supposedly, program, and nothing is changing. If you are not able to look at your programs and see where you are making a difference over time, they're no good. You need to go back to the drawing board. And I know everybody, one of you guys mentioned, because this is what you're known for. But if you're not known for making a difference, then why be known? Because that's what the purpose of this is. If you have a social cause, you're supposed to make a difference with it. If you have a nonprofit organization, you're supposed to make a difference with it. We're not just doing this to be doing it.
Right. And just to wrap up, what Ty said is that if you are having programs, right, and we're going to put that in air quotes again, if you're having programs and you are not creating impact with these programs, then it's not a program, it's an activity. Okay, so when you're doing your internal audit, please look at that. Are you creating impact? Is this impact measurable? Okay, is the impact measurable? We need to be able to measure it. The person started here, and then they ended up here, and they've continued to go here. Okay, because the program doesn't end after your program ends. Right? You have to have follow through. We need to know what happened long term. So all of these are just things. I think we've given you a wide scope of how intense your internal audit is. And you may ask, how do you get this done? You may want to do a retreat, a staff retreat. Take one day and sit down and, it takes some planning, and you probably need to have a consultant in there, to be really honest. But it takes time. If you cannot pull all your staff in, then you do by department, right? But the point is, you need to do that annual internal audit. You cannot just keep doing business as usual and just thinking, okay, everything is fine. Take the time, do the internal audit, make adjustments for things that are not working, make improvements on things that are working, and get rid of some things that just needs to go. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining us for Mission Impact. We hope that you found the information valuable, and that you take this information and create mission impact. Bye, everyone.